Good morning, friends. Good morning, audience, loyal audience. Welcome to my ad hoc ranting program. I know, I need to dye my beard. I'm growing it first, then I will dye. Uh, Notice that sickly soul, flimsy, sickly, foul soul, or plural souls, that rules Moscow. They're so disturbed that the bridge was hit, right? Even though there's a sign that it's them who hit it, right? Now they start killing civilians and calling Security Council meeting, emergency, and. Now you Ukrainians do a little bit of a comparison. They've been killing civilians in Ukraine for 7 months now, right? But when their bridge was hit, right? And that's not their bridge, this is like an illegal installation or infrastructure they built between the two countries, right? Ukraine and Crimea and Russia, right? Now they're so disturbed, right? So what does that tell you about those racists, right? This racism of Talmudic racism tells you one thing, right? They're going after you and they expect no punishment or retaliation. Because if you do, you're violating the rule. That sickly rule within their mind that they can do that to you, but you cannot do anything back to them. I would not be concerned about that sickly foul person using nuclear weapons. He wants to use them, that's his business. But he will be burned by it, that's for sure. He will be burned by it. Not just him, many other like him, that world of sickly, the Assads, the Putins, the Ayatollahs, the Netanyahus, You know how they go about like destroying countries like in Chechnya and Syria and Iraq and Afghanistan and Iran and Yemen and Libya and Somalia and blah 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 blah. They have predecessors. These that creed that line of creatures, like from the moment we met them in history or we began to write their work down or record that as humans, the divine knows something else. We find them like that, like earth scorching, mass murdering, bunch who are marauding earth, like one of them is Pol Pot, for example, or Pol Pot or whatever. One of them is Mao Zedong, one of them is, you name it. So they destroy cities and scorch earth and destroy and maim and kill and so on and so forth. Their hatred toward humanity is unmatched. But we cannot live under that threat forever. What that means is this. Every time they threaten the use of nuclear weapons and you give in to them, guess what? They're going to use it like far more aggressively the next time around. So we humanity cannot live like that under the shadow of that threat forever. Not now, not in eternity. The other thing is, like when you hear Biden, who offered Zelensky a ride out of Kiev, like because he didn't want him to get stuck now. Zelensky was probably expecting to leave as well. That's his role, right? And he said that he'll defend every inch of NATO. That is to keep you Europeans down, to make sure that you do not rise up to your own defense in Kiev. Why? Because now you're thinking, oh, you know what? This is not NATO and this is NATO and it'll be defended. No, folks. If you allow Putin to take over Ukraine, he will come and take over Germany afterwards. And nothing, Scholz and Biden and Xi Jinping and Netanyahu will be happy, of course. Ayatollah Netanyahu will be happy and so on and so forth. Nobody is going to defend you. So why do you want to wait until the battle is in your house, until the fire is in your house? Why don't you go extinguish it now in Ukraine? Same thing for Scandinavians. Germanics and Scandinavians are poised to be annihilated if this Pustalini makes it your country. As a race, as a nation, as a history, they will make you disappear. You guys don't realize the gravity of the situation, but it is real. This is as real as it gets. So when they say they will defend every inch of NATO, they don't mean it. What they're trying to do is very simple, is to keep you down, is to make you disable disable your alarm, disable your ability to fight, disable your initiative. That's all they're trying to do. Similar to Erdogan, you know, when the Syrian regime was down like to 3 weeks of life, Erdogan came and pulled out all these Sunnis, you know, like in favor of ISIS and Assad and all that filthy alliance, and Russia and Hezbollah and Qaeda and so on, and Muslim Brotherhoods and Sufis and so on. He pulled them out, and they accepted the fact that they would come back later, right? But what he was doing is really vacating and you know, the land and the cities for the Assad regime to take over. That's all he was doing. He appears to be their friend, Sunni's friend, but he's not really. Same thing in NATO. Those who are talking NATO and defending every inch of NATO and blah, 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 they're trying to keep you down. You know, trying to quiet you down, trying to deceive you, trying to delude you, and so on and so forth. I cannot emphasize enough, you Western Europeans, and you know, not much left of you in this world, right? If they make it, and I told you before, they will not make it. If they make it your countries, you will witness horror of blood. You will wish that you never existed, and you will see what happened in Berlin and Germany and other places in World War II, and before that in World War I. Nothing. It will pale in comparison to what the post-Stalinians are coming in there to do. Notice they started with the story of Nazism. That's not the slogan anymore. And they started killing civilians, and last I looked, civilians are not Nazis, right? You know, Nazi, that sister of the communist movement, and the vice, the two jaws of a vice that destroyed Europe, right? And they bud from the same evil root that's unseen, that's called Ayatollah Netanyahu, right? My point here is very simple, folks. What they're trying to do now is killing innocent civilians in Ukraine because they're in a corner, and they're trying to kind of scare you into, if they can do that, they can do the bigger thing, right? But you can't live under that threat, not the threat of bombing civilians, not the threat of using nuclear weapons, not any threat. You cannot live like that. I mean, if you capitulate now in Ukraine, whoever you are, the Ukrainians, that's it. Say goodbye to the world, right? And if you want an example, and I gave you that example before, look at what Iran is doing in the Middle East, and all that rhetoric against Israel. Oh boy. Oh boy. Oh boy. You know, the deception, how far they're willing to go in deception. But what I'm trying to say is, there is a problem, folks. Humanity has a problem. And that problem is represented by that Pustalinin and his cabal, right? The lizard eye cabal of Moscow, well, the lizard eye cabal, the Komodo dragon cabals of the world, right? And they're in the stock markets, and they're here and there. I told you before, these guys don't negotiate, folks. These guys are out on a mission to subdue humanity and put it back in Animal Farm. When you read The Animal Farm by that Rabbi Eric Arthur Blair, this is not a novel, 1984 and before that, Animal Farm. This is not a novel, folks. He is explaining to you how he and his people feel about everybody else. How he and his people are, this is their history. They convince themselves of this fake history, right? You know, about what happened, blah, blah, blah. If there's a problem, if there is a psychological issue, if there's any weakness, inherent weakness, and it's all within. Their problem is their own making. It's in their own hands. Nobody else has anything to do with their problem. You know, you hear Menachem Begin and blah blah. Never again. Never again what? Right? You know, I looked at it that time and again, time and again, time and again, and I found the problem to be underneath, within. Right? It's not from without. But nonetheless, this is not the subject. The subject is this: you Europeans, you think that you after World War II you learned your lesson, and then you have not learned your lesson, folks. These guys will come and do horror on you now, and then I don't know, maybe 50 years later, they will commit another horror genocide and act like that on you again. Whether you're Dutch, whether you're Swiss, whether you're Swede, whether you're Norwegians, whether you're wherever you are, these guys are coming to do bloodletting on you. Where is it you don't understand that? I can tell you this: this guy's not going to use a nuclear weapon. I would not lose sleep over it. But if he wants to use it, fuck the bitch. Let him use it, right? The little dog, he can use it if he wants to. We're not going to live like this forever. We, humanity, no matter who we are, including me, the Arab, right? We're not going to live like that forever. No, 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 no. We're tired and sick of this shadow of evil, of hell, you know, lurking here and there. And nonetheless, folks, what happened today is just a scare tactic because these guys are, you know, they abandoned the slogan of Nazism. Now you're terrorist, right? Because you bombed a bridge, you're a terrorist. But they're killing civilians, it's all right, no problem, right? And you will be surprised to find support for them by Scholz, by Macron, by Draghi, by Johnson, by what's their name, Liz, whatever, by Biden, by Obama, by Trump, by MBS, by Zayed of Dubai and Abu Dhabi, you will find a lot of support for them. This class, and I hate to use the word class because that's classy, it sounds classy. This bunch, folks, this cabal of Komodo dragons, there's something foul about them, something foul and ugly and psychotic lurks within their flimsy souls. It's just weird, folks, how they deal with others. And what is it they want? The only thing I can imagine is when Sam Neill, in his movie The Omen, said the world in focus or something like that, right? And the world in focus does not mean you human beings rise to a higher level. No, you're going to sink down to a lower level. I mean, they already achieved so much on that front, degrading and destroying the human ethics, the human values, the humanity in you, whether it's in the West or anywhere else. They're having problems in a Sunni area, right? The Sunni areas are not yet, nor will they ever. And they have a problem. They're cat persons, right? Those Sunnis, real Sunnis, they're cat persons, meaning you cannot subdue them. I see that in some Americans, I see that in some Germans, I see that in some English and so on. And that's a very noticeable trend, right? Noticeable trait that you cannot subdue them, right? You know, they will work with you, they will submit to your manager's instructions, but when you come to take over their lives and make them like animals, obey you like a dog or something like that, it's hard. And that's the problem with them. Is for them it is a problem, you know, like you being free, you being you being a person and a human being, having ethics or having integrity or having, you know, being jealous of your own family and ethics and feeling the love for liberty and value your freedom and so on. For them, that's a problem, folks. And at one point, they arrived that the only way to remove this is by either subjecting you Western European, or Sunnis like for Syria and Iraq and here and there, subjecting you to horror of treatment, similar to that 1984, how they tortured that guy Winston. And if not, you know, they're going to waste you. If you read 1984, it tells you exactly that. You may say this is a fiction. This is not a fiction, folks. You can see it clearly happening now. Remember those guys, the three guys who were sitting in the what's it, like Chestnut Cafe or something like that, where Winston, you know, used to go to, and they eventually, even though they were subject to subject to the same process of dehumanization as Winston did, but they still disappeared, right? Because apparently they still have like certain characteristics in them that kept them human, and that's not good with Big Brother. Bibi, that's Big Brother Bibi Netanyahu, Ayatollah Netanyahu, right? And that said, and Winston, only Winston. Why Winston? Because he's, like he's got this weird, sickly personality. How do I know that? Read the novel. He tells you, he describes him as such, right? You know how when he talks to Julia, how he, he likes when she told him that she's been with so many men, and you know the story. There's more sinister in that novel. Sinister notions than you and ugly notions that than you think there are. Anyways, the subject is do not be afraid of their missiles. Do not be afraid of their nuclear weapons. Rise up and fight now, folks. Rise up and fight. What if, right? What if they change Ukraine into something like Syria, right? Keep firing missiles, keep firing missiles, keep firing missiles until it's troubled. How do you feel about that, you Baltic, you German, you whoever you are? How do you feel about that, right? Just think about it for a minute. How you feel about it is what you really are, or what you really have become. If you don't care, then you're really animalized already, right? You don't give a shit. You know how animals don't care about other animals of their own kind when they get killed or get caught by a predator. All they do is just run, right? Try to run for their lives. You would see a bobcat or a dog or wolf or whatever it is attack like a herd of deer, right? And when one of them caught, even its parents run away, right? Like the deer parents, they run. Everyone runs for its own life. If that's what you are, then you're already an animal. Live like one, and they will use you and abuse you, until you don't exist anymore. These guys are shapeshifters. Race shifters. They keep marrying other nations and into other races until they look like them, or better. That's what they're hoping for. Apparently, that's not working, from what I'm seeing. They're money shifters. They're ugly shifters. They're all kind of shifting, right? Some people say, oh, this is anti-Semitic. Folks, if you cannot address the problem where it is, then don't even address it or try. There's no place for you to run. You have to address it now. That's where the problem is. So don't believe this NATO defense thing. And they swear by it, and every inch, and all that is to keep you down and calm and not react to what Russia is doing in what post-Stalinians are doing in Ukraine. The other thing I want to tell the Russians, what are you doing, Russians? You're trapped in eastern Ukraine. You're very trapped in eastern Ukraine, and you're not going to achieve what Stalin has sent you to achieve, and that's take over Europe and bleed it to death, right? That's not going to happen. It's very obvious. The European citizen is well aware of what's going on, and they have the mentality of the Sunnis, right? The Sunnis don't accept rule over them. So what they do is put molds into them like Qaeda and ISIS and Muslim Brotherhood and whatnot and so on, and do a terrorist act in their names. Still, it doesn't work. You cannot subdue a Sunni. You cannot subdue a Northwestern European. You cannot subdue a Turk. When you talk about Sunni, you cannot subdue them. It's that simple. You cannot deceive them. It's that simple, folks. And so are you. So now, they're trying to destroy Ukraine, right? Really? How about Kirill? Their priest. Like he's sending them to heaven when they destroy cities like this. Aren't you Ukrainians similar to them in religion and race and are you aren't you? So why are they doing what they're doing? Why is post-Stalinian disturbed by what's happening in Iran, right? Supposedly these guys are Muslims, right? They're Shiites, right? So there are issues here. One is now they're calling you terrorists, right? Oh, really? So he shifted now from Nazism to terrorism? I'm thinking about that now. How is that going to work? I mean, if no matter how uninitiated and dumb you are, how could you accept that, folks? But now you notice they're confused and they're dazed, and now they're moving from Nazism into terrorism. But this is as preposterous of a story, of an accusation, of a notion as it is for terrorism, because we know Ukrainians are not Muslims, right? and they're not Nazis, and they're not terrorists. And so are the Sunnis. They are not terrorists. They're not Nazis. They're not ISIS. They're not Qaeda, right? Uh, so as you can see, they're like groping in the dark now, and they think their only solution is to kill civilians by sending. They send a message to Ukrainians by killing these civilians. That's going to produce the opposite, actually. And as sad as it is, it'll wake some Europeans up now and say, "Oh, look what they're doing." The other thing is that supposedly what they call terrorist act on the bridge between Crimea and so on. Oh, I knew it was going to come, and I thought it was going to be Ukraine actually. But yesterday, something came, and told me, it's probably Russia itself, because they want to now employ, because Ukraine has refrained so far from attacking any civilian target in Russia, even though they can, right? So they want something, but why didn't they do it like in Moscow or St. Petersburg or here and there and so on and so forth? It's very simple, folks, because if the civilians in those cities are going to suffer, now they're going to blame the establishment, the lizard eye cabal, of their plight, of their killing their civilians because they started this war, so they didn't do it. Where did they do it? They did it on Crimea, right? The Crimea's bridge, right? Because now those Ukrainians are after infrastructure, not after, which is like of the interest of the Russian citizen, right? I mean, you can see all that. The other thing I wanted to tell you is the other day, supposedly United States said that Ukraine may have something to do with Dugina's death, right? Here are facts for you folks, and I'm willing to stake money on them. No more than $1, no less than $1. That's how much worth that fact is. As a matter of fact, I think $1 is too much value for that Dugin, and what he represents. Dugina is alive, folks. And the woman who died in that SUV was an abductee. I can tell you where from, but I don't want to do that. And that's what it is, folks. She was an abductee, that Dugina, the one who died as a substitute sacrifice for Dugina. And Dugina is most likely either in Siberia or Tel Aviv or Dubai or South America, somewhere, right? There are places in this world, folks, they're not on the map, and you as a person, you as a human being, if you come close, they will immediately attack you, right? They're restricted. That's the Dugin, that's the Ayatollah Netanyahu and their world. So don't be afraid, folks. Ukraine, fight the fight, because if you submit here's the formula. Look what they're doing to your civilians and your infrastructure and to your buildings and to your residences and to your cities now. Mariupol, I mean, these guys have no shame. Now they're calling you terrorist and calling Emergency Security Council session for that act, which probably didn't kill anyone, right? And they do something like Mariupol and mass graves and Bucha, and they have no shame, right? These guys don't understand shame, folks. Their dogma, if you open up their heart and mind and check and understand their dogma, you will be horrified. You will pass out of how ugly they are on the inside. So anyways, if they're doing that to you now, what do you think they're going to do when you submit to them? So it's better to fight them off. And I have no doubt that you're doing that as we speak, right? And you're winning. And you will continue to win. And the Russians will be defeated in Ukraine. And my word to the Russian is this. Russians, what are you fighting for? You're trapped in eastern Ukraine. And if you try to get back, go to Russia, they will shoot you, right? Because now you're deserters, right? They don't tolerate those Pustalinins, the ones who don't fight, right? They don't tolerate deserters, right? Because you're betraying Russia, not them. Although you're fighting to spread their rule, that of Ayatollah Netanyahu and Ayatollah Putin, right? Into Western Europe. If you desert, then you're betraying Russia, not them, right? Of course, that's what it is. Now you're trapped in Ukraine. What are you gonna do? And I can tell you this now. You think this is over, even though if you was, like you're losing and moving backward and withdrawing and vacating, and the Ukrainians are liberating their territory. This is going to get far worse, folks. And you, Russian soldier, you ain't seen nothing yet. This is going to get very bad for you. Bad things are coming for you. Time of the essence, Russian soldier. Surrender now or never. Just think about it. Just sit down and ponder your situation for 5 minutes. Right? Take all your biases out. Throw your biases out. Like dispel your biases and just sit down and think. What are you doing? Think of your family, think of your future, think of your children, think of your country, which have become a pariah. It's not just your country that have become a pariah, it's your citizen as well. Right now, there's not much time. Bad things are coming in eastern Ukraine, right? I can tell you this, they're not nukes, but guess what? If this guy used them, well, what the heck? This is not going to stop at all. He is going to, they're ugly. He and Medvedev, they're all the same. Sometimes I wonder if Putin is really the facade and Medvedev is really moving the strings from behind. This is similar to, do you remember that movie, The League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, Sean Connery? When this guy comes in and then this, supposedly a leader talks to him, he turns out to be not the actual leader, but the leader who was like sitting in the back listening, right? And then he eventually introduces himself. So, but it doesn't matter, two dogs of the same litter, Putin and Medvedev and Lavrov and Shoigu and, all those fucks, right? Those worms that are crawling on the earth. I'm not the first one to describe them as worms. The Shah of Iran described Ayatollah Khomeini back then as worms, moving underground, right? And, I took offense back then because I thought he was like bad to his people and so on. But now I understand. Oh, he was right. He was right. So that's that, folks. Dugina is alive. An abductee substitute was substituted for her demise. NATO will not be defended. Scholz, Biden, Liz, and MBS and UAE and Kuwait, all those Gulf countries, right? They're supporting Pustalinine and that lizard eye cabal tooth and nail, folks. And here comes Iran with their suicide drones, right? They're killing your civilians now. Folks, if they've sent their weapons to kill your civilians, don't be shy anymore, folks. You have to attack, you have to fight back with full resolve, with full heart, with heart. You can't hold back, whether it's information, whether it's weapons or anything else. If you know anything about Iran, expose them. And I'm sure the Ukrainian intelligence has something about them having to do with that September 11 and so on. In which case, Iraq was destroyed and invaded, and it had nothing to do with it. Absolutely nothing to do with it. Have a nice day, my friends. Don't be afraid. Don't flinch. The attack on civilians is a sign of failure and desperation. That's pretty obvious, right? They're not going anywhere. That big historic mission that started in February 24th, if I recall correctly, has come to a halt. It failed. They cannot repeat it. If they stay as is in control, blah, 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 it'll take a few hundred more years, probably 1,000 years before they try to repeat it again. But they're trying to push hard. They did World War I, World War II, then communism before that, and now this in Middle East and so on. So they're accelerating things. They're not the ones to be, they're the hull of their cabal cannot withstand so much acceleration and pressure, right? It's like their submarine has took a deeper dive than it could handle. Ukrainians, Slava Ukraini. And don't be afraid, evil will be defeated. And you Russian soldier, think of your family, think of your children, think of your country, think of what you've become in the past century, and know that bad things are coming to East Ukraine. Uh, and you don't have time. Time is of the essence. Surrender now. Don't go back because they will kill you. Surrender now. Notice how Pustalinin is scraping off from the Russian society, whoever can fight. Now notice, they allow their own class, and I hate to use the word class, right? They're not classy, to escape the draft, like opened airports and checkpoints, border checkpoints, and they allowed them to leave. But you, Russian citizen, cannot afford a hotel outside, whether it's in Georgia or Europe, and because you don't get money on account of the world by way of stock market and Elysee and White House and Congress and so on. These guys get a lot of money, right? But you don't. So you're stuck. So they allowed their own class to leave because to dodge the draft, that partial draft. And if he was able to, and if he knew that was not risky, he would have called full draft, right? But he knew that was very risky. But look at them. If they're doing that, you think they're going to allow you to escape or withdraw back into Russia? No. Your best chance right now is to surrender to Ukrainians. And I assure you, the Ukrainian soldier, the Ukrainian soldier is not going to shoot you like some of you Russian soldiers are shooting Ukrainian civilians. They're not going to do that. I know that for a fact. Russian soldier, don't fight anymore. Go surrender now. This is your only chance and time is of the essence. Go surrender to Ukrainians now and then guarantee your future and that of your family. Have a nice day. And Slava Ukraini, that Pustalinin Kapal is going down.